Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine you're, say, watching a sports game, right?
Yeah.
And suddenly, breaking news, the star player's traded. How fast do you, like, adjust your predictions?
Instantly, almost. Or think about driving. You hit a massive, unexpected traffic jam.
Exactly. And you're late for something important.
Yeah.
How do you process all that new info, the time, the weird detour, maybe surge pricing hitting Uber?
And still figure out if you'll make it. It's pretty amazing when you stop to think about it.
It really is. Our brains just pull together all this random new stuff and somehow make sense of it.
We totally take it for granted, but it's incredibly complex under the hood.
And that's the core idea. That ability is what we're diving into today.
Mhm.
Open world cognition.
Right, how we reason, how we plan, even when things are completely new, using this massive ocean of background knowledge we all have.
Yeah, and for a long time, computational models and cognitive science, they've really struggled with this.
Definitely. They're often built for like neat, tidy, fixed situations. They don't handle the unexpected well at all.
So the big question for researchers has become, well, what is it? What lets us grab all this relevant info from everywhere and reason coherently?
Especially when it's messy and new. And crucially, how could we maybe build AI that thinks more like that?
And that leads us right to some cutting-edge research, basically hot off the press from CogSci 2025.
Ah, yeah.
A paper called Modeling Open World Cognition as On-Demand Synthesis of Probabilistic Models. It's from a big team, Stanford, MIT, Cambridge, Harvard, McGill, Yale.
Okay, a powerhouse group.
Right. And their mission, and ours today, is to unpack their main idea, the model synthesis architecture, MSA for short.
MSA. Got it. So where do we start with understanding what this MSA is trying to do?
Well, I think first we need to look at how our brains are thought to work based on, long-standing ideas in cognitive science.
Oh, yeah.
The idea is that we reason using mental models.
Right, like little internal simulations or blueprints of the world.
Exactly. Structured representations that mirror reality. Basically,
Yeah.
we use them to keep beliefs consistent, add new info, weigh possibilities.
And there's actually really strong support for this, especially from Bayesian modeling.
Bayesian modeling.
Yeah, it shows our judgments often line up incredibly well with these causal probabilistic models.
So, like predicting how a ball might bounce or...
Or understanding cause and effect, or even social stuff like guessing someone's mood or intentions. These models are inherently coherent. They map out dependencies, integrate new data.
Okay, that makes sense for predictable things.
Yeah,
But here's where open world cognition throws a wrench in the works, right?
precisely. Because those Bayesian models, powerful as they are, they're usually scoped.
Meaning,
Meaning they only work for the variables they were specifically designed for. But you, listening right now, you don't think like that.
no, definitely not.
We're constantly tackling new questions, pulling in all sorts of knowledge that wasn't pre-specified in some single neat model.
Like if my friend seems upset, I might think about the weather or their commute or something they mentioned days ago. Stuff that's not in a pre-made friend mood model.
Exactly. Or figuring out your team's chances if the star player gets injured mid-game. You pull in rules, other players' skills, past performance. It's spontaneous.
That flexibility, dealing with the unbounded, that's open world cognition.
That's the essence of it.
So it's not just about having facts. It's about the agility to assemble them into a working model right when you need it, custom built for the problem.
You nailed it, and that is the absolute core of the MSA hypothesis. The paper proposes our minds implement these model synthesis architectures.
Meaning our brains are like little factories, constantly building small, ad hoc mental models on the fly.
Yes, customized for the task. This gives you both local coherence, logical reasoning within that specific little model, and global relevance, the flexibility to build any model you need, drawing from everything you know.
Okay, that's a really cool idea. So how did they actually test this? Did they build one?
They did. They build a concrete computational version of an MSA. It basically splits reasoning into two key steps.
Which I...
First, you synthesize the ad hoc model, you build the blueprint. Then you reason using that blueprint.
Right. And how did they build it? What are the components?
Ah, this is the clever part. They used a hybrid approach, combining powerful AI tools.
Okay.
So on one side, you've got language models, LMs. Think things like Llama 3.1, really good at understanding and generating human language.
Like advanced chatbots, yeah.
The MSA uses those LMs to retrieve relevant background knowledge and actually do the synthesis, the building of the models.
Okay, so LMs handle the language knowledge part. What's the other side?
The other side is probabilistic programming languages, or PPLs. They use one called Web PPL specifically.
PPLs, that sounds technical.
It is a bit, but think of it like a specialized coding language, not for websites, but for expressing uncertainty and logical dependencies. It lets you write down formal rules for how things probably relate to each other.
Ah, okay. So the LM figures out what relationships matter for this situation.
And the PPL provides the rigorous logical framework to express those relationships and make deductions.
Gotcha. It's like the LM is the creative architect and the PPL is the structural engineer, making sure it holds up.
That's a great analogy, actually. Yeah.
So could we walk through how this MSA thing actually builds one of these models? Say, give us some background info, some observations, ask a question.
Sure. Let's simplify the steps. First is parsing.
Okay.
The LM takes your natural language, inputs your observations, questions, background, and translates them into more formal, structured code snippets.
Like turning my sentence into a command the system understands.
Exactly. Then comes retrieving background. The LM doesn't just use what you gave it, it actively searches for and pulls in more relevant background knowledge.
Also a natural language.
Yep. Filling in crucial details about how variables might connect, stuff you didn't explicitly state. It's like the AI quickly consults its internal library.
Okay, that makes sense. What's next?
While it's doing that, it's also mapping dependencies. It figures out how all these variables, the ones you mentioned, the ones it retrieved, influence each other. It builds a sort of conceptual map.
Like a flow chart showing A affects B, B affects C.
Sort of, yeah, a dependency graph.
Yeah.
And then comes a really crucial step, synthesizing the model.
This is where the PPL comes in.
Exactly. The LM uses everything. It's gathered the parsed inputs, the retrieved knowledge, the dependency map to write a complete, formal, probabilistic program in Web PPL.
So that's the custom-built mental model.
That's your ad hoc model, ready to go. And the final step is inferring answers.
Running the model.
Standard Bayesian inference algorithms run on that PPL program to calculate the probabilities and answer your original question.
Wow. Okay, that hybrid approach sounds really powerful. You get the LM's flexibility with language.
And the PPL's rigor and coherence for the actual reasoning. It helps avoid some of the brittleness or, weird mistakes LMs can sometimes make when they're pushed outside their training data.
Best of both worlds, kind of.
Potentially, yeah.
So they built this MSA. How did they test if it actually, thinks like a human?
Right, that's the million-dollar question. They created a test environment they called the Model Olympics domain.
Model Olympics. Sounds fun.
It was a series of natural language stories, vignettes about sports events, but not simple ones. They were designed to be tricky, to really probe that human-like, open-ended reasoning.
Okay. And how do they structure the tests?
They ramped up the difficulty across 3 experiments. Experiment 1 was like giving everyone a very detailed playbook.
Yeah.
The stories had really explicit descriptions of the causal links, like exactly how strength and effort combine to affect rowing speed. Very clear rules.
And the MSA?
It did well, basically replicating earlier findings, but the key was it showed it could synthesize those models directly from the text description.
Okay. Baseline established. What was experiment 2?
Experiment 2 was the ambiguous playbook. The story is still named the key variables, strength, effort, whatever, but they left out the explicit details of how they interact.
So you had to figure out the rules yourself.
Exactly. Both the human participants and the MSA had to pull in relevant assumptions from their general background knowledge, much more like a real-life situation.
Makes sense. More naturalistic. And experiment 3, you mentioned an unpredictable wildcard.
Yeah, experiment 3 was the real open-world test. They introduced participant-generated commentary.
What does that mean?
People reading the stories could add their own comments, introducing totally new factors. The original setup didn't account for things like, oh, this rower pulled a muscle last week, or maybe they had an energy drink.
Whoa, okay. So truly uncontrolled. Novel variables popping up.
Precisely. Directly testing reasoning when the world suddenly throws you a curveball that's not in the rulebook at all.
And how do they compare the MSA to people?
They had human participants read these stories and give judgments. But not just single answers. They expressed their structured uncertainty.
It's a structured uncertainty.
Yeah, instead of just picking one outcome, people could indicate their belief across multiple possibilities, often by clicking multiple times on a scale, showing how confident they were.
Capturing the nuances of belief.
Exactly. And those detailed human responses were the benchmark against which the MSA's predictions were compared. They asked about all sorts of things, stable traits like strength, changing things like effort in one match, and predictions for future matches.
Okay, a pretty thorough comparison.
So-
So, what did they find? How did the MSA stack up?
The results were pretty striking, actually. Finding number one, the MSA mirrored human intuition remarkably well.
Really? Across all the experiments?
Yes, the probabilistic models synthesized by the MSA. Their predictions were highly correlated with the human judgments.
How highly?
In many cases, the MSA's fit to the average human judgment was as good as the consistency between individual humans, what they call the human-human baseline.
Wow. So the MSA was about as human in its predictions as another human would be?
On average, yes. Which is a big deal. It strongly suggests we do reason using something like these structured probabilistic models, even for new stuff, and that the MSA can automatically figure out what variables are relevant and build that structure.
That's huge for scaling up the whole mental models idea. Okay, what else? You mentioned LMs earlier. How did the MSA compare to just using a powerful language model on its own?
Yes. Key finding, too. This is where it gets really interesting. The MSA consistently provided a better match to human judgments than the LM-only approaches.
Even sophisticated LMs, like with chain of thought prompting and all that.
Even then, yes. And the difference was especially noticeable in a couple of key areas.
Like where?
Remember the canoe race stories? They had a similar cause and effect structure to, say, tug of war, but canoe race details are probably less common in the massive data sets LMs train on.
Right, less familiar territory.
And the pure LMs struggled more there. It suggests the explicit probabilistic structure that MSA builds really helps it generalize better when things are less familiar.
Makes sense. It's not just relying on learned text patterns.
Exactly. But the biggest gap, the most dramatic difference, was in experiment 3.
The open world one, with the random comments.
That's the one. The MSA substantially outperformed the LM-only models at integrating those novel, user-generated details, the injuries, the energy drinks, into coherent reasoning.
Things the original model wasn't designed for at all.
And traditional Bayesian models. They couldn't even process those novel variables. The MSA could. This really highlights that probabilistic modeling can handle open-ended scenarios if you have this synthesis step.
So the implication is, LMs are great at fetching knowledge.
But maybe not as good at weaving it into a locally coherent model on the fly, the way humans seem to do.
Yeah. We and the MSA seem to rely more on the deeper structure, the causal logic.
Whereas LMs might get overly influenced by surprising words or superficial patterns, losing that coherence sometimes.
Interesting. Okay, so the MSA does well, especially with novelty. But was it perfect? You hinted it wasn't.
Right. Key finding 3. The model synthesis part is impressive but not flawless. Qualitatively, the MSA did generate reasonable descriptions of variables and how they relate, like strength and effort.
And it turned those into working code.
Into functional web PPL code, yes. But the researchers were upfront about limitations. Sometimes the initial parse wasn't quite right, like it might not fully capture the mathematical idea of an average speed as a mean calculation, just treat it as another variable.
Subtle distinctions.
And it initially struggled with complex time-based stuff like pulled a muscle in previous matches until they gave it specific examples to learn from. So definitely room for improvement.
Okay, so putting it all together, why does this MSA approach seem to capture human thinking better, especially compared to just LMs?
The researchers believe it comes down to those inherent coherence constraints. The probabilistic models it builds are structured by design. They have to follow logical rules.
It can't just make stuff up easily.
Right, and there's a focus on the deeper causal relationships, not just surface language patterns. This probably prevents it from being overly sensitive to surprising inputs, a tendency sometimes seen in pure LMs.
But there's still that gap, right? You said human judgments are often stronger or more peaked.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. While the MSA matches the average human judgment well, individual humans often express more confidence, like a sharper peak in their belief distribution. The MSA's predictions tend to be a bit smoother, more spread out, maybe more uncertain.
So why the difference?
That's a great question for future research. Maybe it points towards needing even deeper integration of neural approaches like LMs with symbolic ones like PPLs, or perhaps better ways of doing the probabilistic inference, the sampling part.
Lots to explore there.
Yeah.
So looking ahead, what's the bigger picture here?
Well, I think tackling this open-world cognition problem is really the frontier for both cognitive science trying to understand the mind and AI trying to build general intelligence.
It feels like a fundamental aspect of us.
It really does. This MSA research is a significant step, providing a computational framework to think about how our minds achieve this incredible generality and flexibility.
Because the path forward is Keep building bigger, better MSAs.
And crucially, keep systematically comparing them to detailed human behavior data. It's how we can start to piece together how all the different parts of our cognition, language, reasoning, knowledge retrieval actually work together.
Moving beyond studying bits in isolation to understanding the whole system.
Exactly. Understanding human general intelligence.
So, to wrap up,
Hmm.
we dove into this amazing human ability to handle novelty, building these on-demand mental models.
Yeah, and we explored the model synthesis architecture, this computational approach that tries to mimic that process.
And it seems to do a pretty good job, often outperforming pure language models, especially when things get really unpredictable and open-ended.
It's a fascinating look under the hood of our own minds, and maybe a hint at how we could build more adaptable AI.
Definitely food for thought. So next time you find yourself instantly making sense of something totally new, a weird social situation, a complex game, that sudden traffic jam,
Take a second to appreciate the incredible custom-built model your brain just synthesized on the fly.
and maybe wonder, what other ad hoc models are you building right now without even realizing it?